All right, good morning. Thank you so much for spending this time investing in your professional development and in yourself as a teacher this morning. We really appreciate that. I am Tiffany Rao, and Connie Haar is going to be joining me. She is one of our master's candidates, and she teaches, she is the Mod Severe teacher on Catalina Island. She has such a fascinating position being on Catalina Island. It is a small population island. And so her caseload includes kinder through adulthood, because there are not really enough of a population to have, maybe a K through 3 caseload or a high school caseload. She's it. And so it's really interesting how she's able to manage all of those different programs, all of the different students' needs. And I think that it will be really interesting to hear from her. So let's see, I am going to go ahead and do an introduction. And then after that, I will share the slides. And I mentioned before, if you are in one of my classes and you are doing this for extra credit, you can go ahead and take a screenshot now or at any point, and you can submit that for your extra credit, okay? All right. So like I said, I will share these slides in the chat after I finish my, my intro. Okay. All right, good. Okay, so if you have any questions, you can ask in the chat, or wait until the question and answers to ask aloud. And otherwise, please remain muted unless it is the Q&A. And like I said, I will share links to this chat to the slides in the chat, and I'll also share a survey at the end. Okay, so but just to be upfront here, some of you are still joining us. I am still waiting on my co-presenter. I'm not sure what's going on. So there is a chance that I won't be able to finish this webinar. I'm hoping that she's able to make it. I hope that everything's okay and she's able to make it. I've got 3 slides and then it's her turn. So we'll see what happens. Okay, so special education case management. I'm just going to open up. She's going to be talking about how she manages her K through 12 her K through 12 caseload, which is very challenging. And so I just want to talk a little bit about case management. Case management in special education, as you know, is an essential part of a special educator's job and student success. But it is one of the most unclear responsibilities. There are actually no specific legal requirements that outline how to enact case management, but it is crucial to do it well in order to meet federal and state education laws. It is difficult by nature to, if not impossible, to design a one-size approach to case management, since every caseload is different, every district, every school is unique. And this part of the job can feel very invisible, but it can take up a big piece of your time. A lot of people assume before they get into it, they assume that it's a lot of paperwork. Oh gosh, it must be so much paperwork, so many IEPs, but your time is better spent investing in relationships and collaboration when it comes to case management. And actually very little time would normally be spent on paperwork. That is part of it, but that is not the main part of it. And Connie's here, wonderful, yay. Hi, Connie, welcome. Thanks so much. I assumed you had maybe some connectivity issues. So I just kind of started on my my intro and was hoping that you'd be able to make it on, and I see that you're here, so yay.
So I apologize. It just was not doing what I wanted it to do.
Yes, it happens. It happens. I'm thrilled that you're here. So I introduced you. I talked about your job on Catalina and your wide range of caseload, and I'm just introducing case management, and then I'll hand it over to you.
Okay.
All right. Okay, so case management, according to CTC, I pulled this off of the CTC website. If you're interested, you can go to the link right here. It is overseeing implementation of the IEP, providing instruction and coordinating services. But also, I think it's very difficult to kind of put it in a nutshell, so to speak, because it's also a lot more, right? It is also working with parents, ongoing communication with all service providers, teachers, and administration. It might include some staff training if that seems applicable to your caseload. It includes designing and ensuring proper usage and availability of accommodations and modifications that are outlined in each individual student's IEP, and making sure that those are available and appropriate in all activities, including classwork, recess or break, field trips, assessments, and this includes academic, functional, and behavioral accommodations and modifications. It can include preparing for and supporting substitute teachers, and maybe not only in your own class, but you might hear, oh, this student has a substitute, their gen ed teacher has a substitute today, and I need to rush over and make sure that substitute understands the student's behavioral needs before something happens, right? Before a disaster happens. It also includes curricular and instructional design, facilitating meetings, including not just IEP meetings, but team meetings, where maybe you're just meeting with the staff, with other teachers and specialists, as well as conferences, informal conferences with parent. It includes transition planning and implementation, assessments and data collection, progress reports and report cards, supervising instructional aids, and paperwork too. So as you can see, like I was saying, this is a huge part of a special educator's job, but it's also kind of this invisible part of the job where people might see you doing bits and pieces, but really it's this all-encompassing, very important piece of your job. So without further ado, I've got one more. And then the unique challenges of teaching in a rural or low population setting, which is what Connie does, which is what maybe some of you do or might do one day, is that you have a wide range of ages, grade levels, and ability levels all in one caseload due to the low population, right? They can't hire a teacher to just teach the one student that falls in the K-3 level, right? Or two students that fall in the K-6 level. So you might have a very wide range. Sometimes you might feel isolated. There may be less support from the community. There may be fewer resources available. So teaching in that kind of setting comes with an additional set of challenges. So now, without further ado, I'm going to hand it over to Connie. And while she begins, I will post these slides in the chat so that you can go ahead and access them and download them if you'd like.
Hi, everybody. My name is Connie, and I teach at a K-12 school that is located on Catalina Island, just off the coast here. Dr. Rao is absolutely correct. It does come with its unique challenges. We do have fewer resources. We do have, I do have a very wide range of students. I currently have one adult. I have two high schoolers with very different needs, 3 middle schoolers and 2 kindergartners. So how do you make all of that work? This picture that you see over here, that is just a snapshot of what our school typical, so that's not my schedule, that is the school schedule. And as you can see, we have many of them because we are servicing a high school, middle school, and elementary school all on the same campus. And then the teacher next door to me also services pre-K. Okay. So this means that there are many different schedules to keep track of. I do not have all of my students all day long, like some of you might have in the moderate to severe setting. I also should note that I am the only one with my credential on campus. So there are certain students that I absolutely have to have on my caseload, but I may not necessarily service for the whole day. We have to compromise in some areas and work as a whole team on campus. And so here's just a little sample of what my 4 different schedules look like. That first picture is the middle school and the high school schedule that is up on the board all the time. That middle one is my adults schedule, and it is on cards that can be moved around because his schedule differentiates based on the amount of support that I have that day. And it's also based on the whole school schedule that day. So his needs to be able to move around. And then the one that you see, the strip, is more for my kindergartners. That's a snapshot of the one that they have over in the next door in the pre-K TK class. And I'll get a little bit more into why that schedule is over there as opposed to with me in a bit. So this also makes for a very complicated aid schedule because I don't have aides that are just assigned to my classroom. I have aides that spend part of their day in middle school, spend part of their day in high school, part of their day in elementary. So this is just a little snapshot of what their schedule looks like, and their schedule also moves around if we have an absence. If another aide is absent that day, there are no substitute aides to come in and fill their position. We don't have any. So if there's a spot that, you know, is vacant, and it's a higher needs student, like my nonverbal, highly autistic adult, that's where the aid support is going to go. So that means that the high school and middle school RSP teachers might be minus an aide that day. And as a moderate severe teacher that teaches with that team, I have to be very conscious of those things and what support I might be able to help provide during other parts of the day. The other slide is, or the other picture is just what my split assembly schedule looks like. Because we service high schoolers and middle schoolers on the same campus, I color code it for my high schoolers and middle schoolers. This doesn't affect the elementary school. So again, that also affects the aid schedules, because if some of them are servicing high school and middle school in the morning, and some of them are coming and servicing elementary in the afternoon, the timelines aren't going to meet up. And so we have to figure out, it's like a puzzle every day we walk in when it comes to where our support is going to be spread. Okay. So I felt that even though I have 1 adult and 2 high schoolers, 1 middle schooler, or 3 middle schoolers and 2 kindergartners, it was really important to make sure that my classroom looks like that each grade level has their own section that is unique to what they need. Okay. And it wasn't easy because this is a standard bungalow classroom. So picture a bungalow divided into 4 different subgroups. So we can go on to the next one. One thing that has really made life very easy in my classroom is just really simple, easy rules that are recognizable by both the kindergartners and the adult student. That's why there's pictures and there are words, and they are just so simple. I mean, quiet mouth covers just about everything that makes noise, making noise, to listen to your teacher. These are simple rules. They're easy to follow by all students in the classroom, regardless of what their functioning level is. Because I've got everything from moderate or from moderate to severe in my classroom. So speaking of, keeping things simple, I do have 2 different ways that I use positive behavioral support measures in my classroom. For the higher functioning students, I use Class Dojo for. I don't know if this doesn't really work for the adult and the one of the high school students, just because of their functioning level, they are still on token boards. But for my middle schoolers that are border, they barely qualify for my setting. We use Class Dojo with them. And the way I use it in my classroom is you gain a certain amount of points throughout the week and you get to participate in Fun Friday. And Fun Friday usually consists of, instead of doing a math academic thing, we do an academic game. But it's a break from the usual. So they really do look forward to it. But my students that are on the token board system, they are of a more immediate need for reinforcement of good choices and good behavior. And this is mostly my littles, my kinders, and my adult student. And the one high school student, the other high school student falls within the Class Dojo setting. So students also, they really need an easy place to be able to store their things when they come into my classroom. And I try very hard not to call these cubbies when the kindergartners are not present, because a lot of these students have been in the same classroom since they were 3.5 years old. So these boxes that you see over here, they went from being kind of rainbow. I traded them out to being white and tan because I have majority upper grade students. And so I felt it made it feel a lot less like their old elementary school classroom as they moved into middle school. Typically there would be names on there, but I took them off for the purposes of this. And so we call them their mailbox instead of a cubby when the high schoolers and middle schoolers are present. And then also for my high schoolers and middle schoolers that are higher functioning, I have a section where they can store, each one of these is a different subject for them. I'm only showing 3 here. There are 4, but the 4th one is on the other side of the room because that class is actually taught at a different table than these other 3 classes are. And so each subject is a different color. It helps keep them organized. And then each folder has their name on it. And I found that made for really easy transitions when they came in from different periods, because I don't have all of my high schoolers and middle schoolers with me for all 4 subjects. I have some for just 2. I have some for all 4. I have some for just 3. It's just a matter of what's appropriate for them and their academic needs. So even though my classroom is divided into different sections, the students, they have access to all parts of the classroom. They're not just, limited to one table or another. So they feel like this is their classroom. These are their materials. These are things for them to use and to learn with. So anyways, sorry. This is just a little snapshot of what my kinder section looks like right now. When my adult student ages out. Do you want me to answer questions now, or are we going to wait until the end?
Go ahead and finish this slide, and then you could answer that question. Okay.
So this kinder section will be moved to where my current adult section is, because that student will be aging out, and it'll be another 3 or 4 years until I have another adult student. So when we get there, I'll get a little bit more into that. For right now, we just have a small round table. I just got them this year. So for right now, we just have a small round table and a shelf with different materials that I use with them. When they do come in for the 1 hour, then I am able to service them. And the reason why I'm able to service them during that hour is because all of my other students, with the exception of the adult student, are out in gen ed classes, which I have aid support for. Ideally, I should be in those classes with them, but for right now, and we're working on that for next school year, but for right now, this is the only time that we could find where I could directly service the kinders that fall under my credential. Let me see what the question was again. So the question was, for various curriculum, do you get the information from gen ed teachers and adjust, or are you responsible for making all the curriculum for each student? So for the students that are in general education classes right now, they are actually, I have one student that is in math and language arts gen ed, grade level gen ed. And there is a RSP/SDC, she has both on her caseload, that is helping me service that student directly in the gen ed classroom. So that teacher, it's not aid support. That teacher is actually in the classroom with that student and other students on her caseload, servicing those students. And then we collaborate during our, when they have staff meetings, but you're supposed to collaborate with your team. That's when we collaborate and talk about the students that we share on our caseload. As far as curriculum goes, when the students are in my classroom and I am running those classes, I have a specific curriculum that the moderate severe department uses. So I'm not having to create my own curriculum per se. For my other students that are in classes that are supported by aides, I do directly collaborate with that teacher in creating materials that would be appropriate for them. For just a quick example, for example, one of my high school students is also in a Spanish class. And so I work very closely with that Spanish teacher in creating worksheets based off of the ones that he's using, or activities based off of the ones that he's using, that my student would be able to do in, like, say, a paired situation where he's working with another student who's got the same material, just not as, and my student just doesn't have as much of it. And so they're working together to complete the assignments. So there's student peer collaboration in there as well. Does that help?
Yeah, that's awesome. It sounds so collaborative, and you've got so many balls in the air that you're juggling at one time, but it really sounds like the kids are getting a very valuable experience getting some direct services, getting support from aides, and then getting that inclusive experience in the gen ed classes too. So that's really awesome.
And that's the goal. That's the goal. Get them out there as much as possible, because this is their community, and it's a small community. There's only about 3,000 people on that island, and that includes all the sections of the island. That's not just Avalon.
Wow. So fascinating. Should I go to the next slide?
Yeah.
Okay.
This is what my middle school section looks like. One of the big things in 7th grade, which is the majority of my middle school students is 7th grade. I've got one 8th grader, is geography. So hence the map. So yeah, this is where, when they come and they join me for language arts and for social studies, this is where the classes run. So I can refer to the map as needed, because a lot of the literature that is also addressed in language arts, are from different parts of the world. So I like to be able to show them where those places are. And during that time, during language arts and during math, I only have middle schoolers. So I'm only addressing middle school curriculum. And that's first and second period for them.
And I just wanted to ask, that's a beautiful map, and it looks like it's fabric that did you sew that on? Or
actually, one of my aides made that a couple of years ago, made it as a curtain for the bookshelf that's behind it, because that bookshelf is very busy and can be very distracting. So you'll see that there are pretty plain curtains all around the room, and those curtains are covering up bookshelves that have activities and task boxes and curriculum. Behind me is all curriculum, just so that it's not distracting for the students.
Right. And it looks like you've optimized every inch of space.
Yeah.
I mean, it's just really cool to see that even the curtain has two uses to cover that up and then also display that map. So that's really cool example of utilizing that space for so many different purposes.
And that's one of the things you have to do when you're in a K-12 setting. Well, actually K-adult setting is just making sure that each space has a meaning. There's no such thing as an empty pocket in my classroom. And I'm sure that even with classrooms that have, you know, just SDC or, you know, just medically fragile or, you know, whatever, that's the same situation. But in my case, it's even more so. So yeah, and behind me is most of the middle school and the high school curriculum, just because I need to have easy access when we're teaching at that station. So my one high school student who has been in the same classroom since one of my high school students that's higher functioning, that has been in the same classroom since he was 3.5 years old, had told me one day, you know, I really would like a high school space just like in my gen ed classes. So I got him a desk just like any other high schooler would be sitting in. He got to pick where he wanted to put it, and he wanted to put it near the task boxes because when he goes on his breaks, he either does a task box or a puzzle. When there are things going on in Spanish where he might need a more quiet environment in order to like take a quiz or complete an assignment. This is also where he comes and sits with either his peer partner or his aide support that is typically in class with him. And this is just, I can't tell you what a change this has made for him, having this high school desk in his classroom. He said it made him feel like a high schooler. So
I love that he advocated for himself.
Yeah. He's finally getting to that point where he's letting me know what's going on, what he needs. So it's great. We've been working on that for years with him. This is where science and some social studies happens. It depends upon whether we're on split assembly or regular assembly or, you know, any kind of weird schedule. So yeah, science happens here. Science is actually taught by, I hand science over to one of my aides who's been working with these students since they were very young. She's somebody that I can trust. She's somebody that I'm not sure why she didn't become a teacher herself. So I hand her the material and she takes it away, and she's absolutely amazing. And it makes it so that I can have a conference period, which is what our prep periods are called with this district. Because between her and the adult support that is on the other side of the room, it makes it so that I can take brief excursions out of the classroom to make copies and do things. So yeah, this just helps keep things a little bit more fresh for students, you know, that have been in here year after year. This is my adult corner. This will be the kinder corner next year. We're going to move the carpet and all of the shelving and stuff with the different materials over into this corner, mostly because the door is on the other side of the room. And I didn't take a picture of it, and I kind of wish I did, but because of the non-ambulatory medically fragile students that I have, we also have 2 changing tables that are just to that side. I think you can see the privacy curtain there behind the chair. There's 2 changing tables over there that we currently are using for the older medically fragile students, but that also will be where we help the kinder students with potty training and stuff like that. We don't have a bathroom in the classroom. Like I said, it's just a typical bungalow. So, but over here, you can see that the adult student has access to a refrigerator. He does bring food that purposely needs to be prepared for lunch and for nutrition. That is something that I collaborated with Mom, so that he is opening and closing containers on his own. He is, you know, using the microwave that you see that's right next to the refrigerator on his own. He also has, that's his schedule that you see on that metal cabinet that can be moved around. You also see there's a yellow cart. Just because of his level of ability, he his work experience as an adult, he does community pickup for both the city. There's an official contract with the city for him to be volunteering to pick up the park that's local near the school. And he also does campus cleanup with that cart as well. And it's one of the things that he looks forward to all day long. He uses a boogie board. I don't know if you guys have ever seen it, but it's one of those rewritable boards to actually, like, he will write the time, because there's times and names next to, he will actually write the time when he's supposed to be going on his community pickup walks. When he thinks when he thinks he needs it, especially when we have a change of schedule, because he knows when that time would typically be coming up. So we're able to reference that schedule when he's writing down, hey, when are we going to do our campus cleanup? We can say, hey, we've got stuff going on out on campus that's going to make it a little hard for you to do that. So we're going to do it at this time. And so that makes it a little bit easier. And you can see there's a little vacuum over there that he takes to the other side of the room to vacuum the carpet. Just all kinds of life skills in this corner. And the other thing I didn't take a picture of, I didn't take a picture of all the shelves with the task boxes on it. Most of those task boxes are life skills and academic skill oriented, in the respects that, you know, we've got things like sorting money, putting dishes away on a drying rack, that kind of thing. I wish I would have taken a picture of that too. Sorry, guys. So yeah. Oh, I forgot one other thing he does. We don't need to go back to the next slide. One other thing that he does, which the whole campus really appreciates, he does shredding. He shreds all of those documents that, you know, you would normally have to ship off to the district. He shreds them for us. We got approval from the district and everything to be able to do it. So yay. And he knows that he's making that kind of difference. You just see the happiness on his face. So yay. So I know you've heard that me talk a lot about collaboration, and collaboration is the name of the game when you're working at a small school with, you know, very wide range of needs. Up in the upper left-hand corner, that is the pre-K teacher. She's the one sitting there with the coffee. That is the pre-K, and then also mild moderate teacher that I share the kindergarten students with. She's an amazing educator, and I love working with her. I can't imagine having anybody else help me service those students. Yeah, anyways, next to her is one of our mild moderate teachers. She's the one that I collaborate with to help service the 2 middle school students. The one next to her, that's our department head. I would not have aid support when I need it if it wasn't for her. The one next to her, that's our speech teacher. She's just amazing. She comes into classrooms, she pulls out of classrooms. And then down here, we have we've got a TOSA that has been amazing with my English language learners. Got 2 of them. So she had the one on the left, she comes in and directly services them. I couldn't find a picture without these 2 together. So the other one is Math TOSA, which I don't see her very often, but you know. And then the last one, my absolute wonderful aides. These are all the people that directly service my students, and they are amazing people. And I couldn't do my job without them. They were creative. Some of them, they do things before I even need to ask them to do it. And so I think it's the open lines of communication that we had when I first started on this campus that made that possible. We were constantly talking and collaborating, and I was asking them questions on how to help the students, because, you know, like I said, many of these people that you see, these lovely people that you see here, have been working with these kids since they were 3.5. They're experts on these children, and, you know, always take advantage of that knowledge. And I think you're going to find that, especially if you find yourself in a rural setting, you're going to find that to be the case more often than not, that the aides have been working with these students since they were very young, and they are a wealth of knowledge.
Well, thank you, Connie. It's so great to see this outstanding example of a program that has all of these extra challenges, and see how you really make it work and how it's a team effort. And I love the appreciation for your team at the end. Obviously, that's such a huge part of it as well. And one thing that I noticed that I really appreciated is how you are very aware of keeping things age appropriate.
Yes.
So as they, are growing, you thought about the rainbow colors and changing it from calling it a cubby to a mailbox. Those little things I think are so important to always be on the lookout for, especially in a mod severe program, because their developmental level, of course, does not typically match up with their age level, but we still want things to be age appropriate, to look like middle school and feel like middle school or high school or an adult education. So I really appreciate that you obviously keep your eye out for that as well.
Yeah, and it's not easy when these kids have been in the same classroom since they were 3.5, when I first started in that classroom, it looked a lot different. Everything was kind of together, everything was taught together. And I felt like there was such a big differentiation in age and skill level and things like that it needed to be compartmentalized so that they can feel like middle schoolers, feel like high schoolers, feel like an adult,
Definitely. So interesting. So when you first started, it was kind of a more one size fits all approach, or would you characterize it like that?
Yeah, a little bit. And I can see why the previous teacher would do that. She had also been with those students for 15 years. So yeah.
I can see why, but I like what you've done with the program, and it sounds like the kids are really thriving, and that's awesome. All right, so any questions? We'll open it up to questions now. You can go ahead and unmute yourself and ask, or ask in the chat if that's easier. All right, and if there are no questions, that's okay. That's often the case, and that's perfectly okay. I'm going to post. Okay. Oh, did somebody?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I just had
hi,
a quick
Regina.
question. Was this your first teaching experience? Or what have you taught in another situation before you took this responsibility on?
Yeah, I was a longtime aide for Anaheim for many years, and then my first teaching position was actually with Palm Springs in a functional skills class. So no, not my first teaching position, but definitely my first one with such a large range.
Great question. Any others? All right. Well, thank you once again, Connie, and don't leave just yet. And if you think of a question, you can just put it in the chat or interrupt me. I don't mind. I put in the chat a link to our survey. If you would please take 2 minutes to head over and take that survey right now. That really gives us some good data and helps us know what you're interested in and what other kinds of professional development might be useful to you. So if you could please do that. And while you're doing that, I will talk about our next webinar. It's next Saturday. It is our last webinar of our special ed series on classroom and case management for this semester. We do have a lot of really great professional development coming up over the summer. So watch out for that, because I'll be sending out some information about our summer professional development, but we'll have webinars. We'll even have some in-person workshops, all of it free. So keep your eyes open for emails from me about that. But for next Saturday, our last spring webinar is with Mod Severe teacher Lorena Calderon, and she will be talking about progress monitoring and assessments in a Mod Severe class. So join us next week if you're able to come. That's also from 9 to 10 a.m. And That's it. Thanks again so much for coming. Thank you, Connie, for sharing your classroom and sharing all of your great tips. And we hope to see you next time.
Thank you, Dr. Rowe.
Thank you. Hi, Mirna. How are you?